You know something is wrong when the room is full, the phone is glowing, the noise is constant, and still your heart feels untouched. You laugh at the right moments, answer messages, scroll past lives that look better than yours, make plans for tomorrow, maybe even succeed at the things you once begged for, yet when the night becomes quiet, something inside you refuses to settle. It is not ordinary sadness, it is not just boredom, it is that strange uneasiness that follows you after the joke ends, after the meal is finished, after the screen goes dark. You keep reaching for the dunya like it will finally give you weight, meaning and rest, but every time you hold something, it slips into another hunger. The heart was not made to be fed only by what ends. It can enjoy the world, work in the world, love in the world, but when it starts trying to worship the world, it becomes tired in a way sleep cannot repair. Sometimes Allah calls a person back not through a loud punishment, but through a discomfort. No distraction can silence. A missed salah begins to feel heavier than before. A sin that used to feel exciting now leaves a bitter taste in the chest. A door you were forcing open keeps closing, not because Allah hates you, but because He is not letting you lose yourself completely inside it. You may think your restlessness is proof that you are broken, but it may be mercy arriving in a form your ego does not like. Allah may be pulling you back while you are still breathing, still able to make tawbah, still able to raise your hands, still able to open the Quran, still able to change before the heart becomes so used to darkness that it stops missing the light. The danger is not that you fell. Everyone falls in different ways, some in public, some in private, some with the tongue, some with the eyes, some through pride, anger, greed, desire, or neglect. The danger is when falling no longer bothers you. The danger is when salah becomes something you keep postponing without pain, when repentance becomes an idea you save for an older version of yourself, when the Quran sits nearby but the heart treats it like a stranger, when you can spend hours feeding your mind with everything except the words that were sent to guide it. At first, ignoring the call feels small. You tell yourself you will pray later, you will stop later, you will become serious later. You will return to Allah when life calms down. But life rarely calms down for the heedless heart. One desire gives birth to another, one delay teaches the soul to delay again, and one ignored reminder makes the next reminder easier to dismiss. This is why the uneasiness matters. It is not there to humiliate you. It is not Allah exposing you to destroy you. It is a warning light inside the soul, the kind that still turns on, because something in you is alive. When guilt after sin appears suddenly, do not curse it. When you cannot enjoy what you used to enjoy, do not rush to numb yourself. When the same verse, the same reminder, the same conversation, the same fear of meeting Allah keeps returning from different directions, pause. A heart completely abandoned to the dunya does not tremble easily. If your heart still trembles, even quietly, then there is still softness there. There is still a place where guidance can enter, but softness must be protected. If you keep treating every reminder as an interruption, one day the reminder may come and find no opening. So maybe the silence you feared is not emptiness. Maybe it is the place where God has been waiting for your noise to settle enough for you to recognize that He never stopped calling. He was there in the warning you dismissed, the restlessness you numbed, the door that would not open, the relationship that exposed your wounds, the betrayal that revealed your dependency, the isolation that stripped away your performance, the repeated conviction that kept returning with patient mercy. He was not absent from the hard season. He was closer than the distractions you kept choosing over Him. And now the invitation is not to panic, not to punish yourself, not to make a dramatic vow you will abandon by next week, but to return in a way that can be lived. Return with your actual schedule, your actual phone habits, your actual fears, your actual grief, your actual attachments, your actual unfinished obedience. Bring God the version of you that keeps starting and stopping. Bring Him the part that is embarrassed to need mercy again. Bring Him the part that has confused intensity with guidance and delay with rejection. Bring Him the heart that still wants control, but is tired of the cost. The Father is not asking for a performance of surrender. He is asking for the truth and then the next step that truth requires. You do not have to force a sign. You do not have to chase what God has not released. You do not have to keep living loud on the outside while your spirit grows quiet in the wrong direction. The call has been gentle, but it has not been weak. It has followed you through rooms, screens, conversations, memories, and sleepless nights. It has survived your avoidance. It has outlasted your excuses. But a heart can become used to ignoring even mercy if it practices long enough. That is the serious part, not that God is far away, but that you can become numb while He is near. And perhaps the most loving thing He can do tonight is let you feel the weight of that before you mistake numbness for peace. There is a moment many people do not speak about because it is too honest. You commit a sin, you promised yourself you would leave, and immediately after it, the pleasure collapses. The same heart that was rushing toward it now sits in shame. Not theatrical shame, not the kind you show people, but the kind that makes you avoid your own reflection. You might wash your face, lie down, pretend nothing happened, open another app, play another video, start another conversation. But beneath it all, there is a sentence you do not want to hear. Why am I still doing this? That question can become the beginning of tawbah if you do not run from it. Shaitan wants you to turn guilt into despair because despair keeps you away from Allah just as effectively as arrogance does. He whispers, "You are fake. You have done this too many times. Allah will not accept you." But sincere guilt is not the same as hopelessness. Guilt can push you to make wudu, stand for 2 rak'ahs, whisper, "O Allah, I am weak, but I do not want to be far from you." Despair tells you to stay on the floor. Tawbah tells you to return even if your steps are shaking. And that is why the believer must learn to read the heart carefully. Not every heaviness is depression, and not every guilt is destruction. Sometimes it is a door. Sometimes the pain after disobedience is Allah not allowing the sin to become sweet enough to own you. If this recognition touches something you have been carrying silently, let the video be liked as a quiet acknowledgement that the heart still wants to come back. Not for show, not for performance, but because admitting the truth is often the first crack in the wall. The dunya does not always pull people away from Allah through obvious corruption. Sometimes it pulls them away through respectable busyness. Work becomes endless. Family expectations multiply. Studies, bills, errands, plans, messages, appointments, ambitions, and responsibilities fill every corner of the day until worship becomes the thing squeezed into whatever space is left. You do not wake up one morning and declare that Allah is no longer important. It happens more quietly than that. Fajr becomes difficult because the night was spent scrolling. Duha becomes after this meeting. Asr becomes when I get home. Maghrib becomes rushed. Isha becomes delayed until the body is too tired to stand with presence. Then the heart begins to feel dry, and you wonder why everything annoys you. A small criticism feels like an attack. A delayed reply feels like rejection. A closed door feels like humiliation. A person who is spiritually hungry becomes emotionally fragile in places they used to be strong. Salah is not just an obligation placed on your schedule. It is the rope that keeps the day from swallowing you whole. When you stand before Allah, you're reminded that your employer is not your provider, your audience is not your judge, your desires are not your master, and your timeline is not the law of the universe. The world becomes dangerous when it starts looking absolute. Salah breaks that illusion 5 times a day. It interrupts the false kingdom of urgency and teaches the soul that nothing deserves your surrender except Allah. Sometimes Allah closes a door you were begging Him to open, and the first reaction is anger covered in religious language. You say, "I made dua. I tried to be patient. I prayed, so why did this not happen?" But beneath the question, there may be an assumption that Allah's mercy must always look like access. Access to the person, the job, the place, the money, the attention, the opportunity, the life you pictured. Yet, hidden mercy often arrives as prevention. You are about to enter something with a heart too attached, a need too desperate, a blindness too strong to notice the warning signs. Maybe the relationship you wanted would have trained you to abandon your boundaries. Maybe the promotion you chased would have fed a pride that was already growing. Maybe the circle you wanted to join would have made sin feel normal and worship feel embarrassing. Maybe the delay was not a denial, but a space where your soul could sober up. Tawakkul is not pretending you feel nothing when plans collapse. It is standing in the ruins of your expectations and refusing to accuse Allah of neglect. It is letting yourself feel the disappointment without letting disappointment become disbelief. There is a kind of maturity that only appears when you stop forcing every locked door and start asking, what is this teaching me about my attachment? The answer may not come immediately. It may come months later when you see what you were protected from, or years later when the same door would no longer tempt you. And sometimes you may never see the full reason in this life. Even then, the servant who trusts Allah is not naive. They simply know that their sight is partial, while Allah's knowledge is complete. But not every difficulty should be dressed up as a secret sign that you are spiritually superior. This matters. A person can be restless because Allah is calling them back, but a person can also be restless because they are sleep-deprived, isolated, dishonest with themselves, trapped in harmful habits, or refusing to take practical responsibility. Faith does not mean turning every closed door into a mystical message while ignoring obvious causes. If you keep missing deadlines, the consequence may not be a divine mystery. It may be a call to discipline. If every friendship ends in conflict, the lesson may not be that everyone is jealous of your light. It may be that your tongue wounds people when you feel insecure. If you keep returning to the same sin, the solution is not only to cry at night, though crying before Allah is beautiful. It is also to change the environment, block the path, lower the gaze. Seek good company and stop carrying the match into the room full of fuel. Spiritual awakening is not an escape from accountability. It is the beginning of accountability with Allah at the center. Basira, inner sight, does not make you suspicious of everyone. It makes you honest about yourself without losing hope. The chosen servant is not the one who believes every discomfort proves their special status. The chosen servant is the one who responds to discomfort with humility, asks what Allah wants from them now, and then takes the next obedient step. Guidance does not require chaos. It does not require ego. It does not require treating people who misunderstand you as enemies. Sometimes the most spiritual thing you can do is apologize, sleep on time, pray on time, delete what keeps dragging you back, and stop calling self-sabotage destiny. One of the greatest tricks of delay is that it makes repentance feel available without ever letting you use it. Tomorrow becomes a soft pillow for a tired conscience. Tomorrow I will pray properly. Tomorrow I will leave the haram conversation. Tomorrow I will stop watching what darkens my heart. Tomorrow I will open the Quran. Tomorrow I will make that apology. Tomorrow I will become serious. But tomorrow is not in your hand. Even if you live to see it, the heart you bring into it may be harder than the one you have today. This is not meant to terrify you into panic. Panic rarely produces a steady obedience. It is meant to wake up the part of you that knows life is moving. People younger than you have already been buried. People stronger than you have been carried by others. People with plans more detailed than yours were called back to Allah before sending the message they thought they had time to send. The door of Tawbah is open, but an open door still must be entered. Do not confuse Allah's patience with permission to continue heedlessly. His mercy is vast, but mercy should make you run toward Him, not away from Him. A sincere return does not require you to become perfect overnight. It requires you to stop making peace with distance. Pray the prayer you have been delaying, even if your focus is weak. Make tawbah after the sin, even if shame makes your voice small. Replace one destructive habit with one act of obedience today, not as a grand announcement, but as proof that your soul is no longer negotiating with every desire. The path back is walked in actual steps, not imagined future intentions. And when you do begin to return, do not expect the dunya to lose its pull immediately. There will be days when the old life calls you by name. A memory will rise. A message will arrive. A stressful moment will make the old escape look merciful. You may relapse into a habit you thought you had buried, and the disappointment may feel heavier because now you know better. Do not turn that disappointment into a prison. Return again. The servant of Allah is not purified by never needing forgiveness. The servant is purified by refusing to make sin a home. Over time, something changes quietly. The trigger that once controlled you begins to lose authority. The insult that would have burned for days passes through you more quickly. The closed door still hurts, but it no longer convinces you that Allah has abandoned you. The prayer you once treated as an interruption becomes the place where your breathing slows. The Quran that once felt distant begins to speak into situations you thought no one understood. You start noticing that peace is not the same as getting everything you wanted. Peace is when the heart stops running from the one who made it. This is the real mercy inside the uneasiness. Allah did not let the dunya satisfy you completely. He did not let the sin become your identity. He did not let the delay erase your longing. He kept disturbing the false comfort until you looked back toward Him. The call was not rejection. It was an invitation. The only question left is whether you will keep running toward what keeps ending, or, finally, turn toward the one who was calling you even while you ran.